Hello, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Mystery in the Ozarks. This is episode 5. If you haven't seen the first 4, you might go check them out. This is the series where I'm writing a book and reading it to you as we go along. I'm not editing it, and I'm not trying to fix anything that much in any of the past episodes. I try to fix it as we go forward. So if there's something that you see, let me know. And if there's something you think we should add in, put it in the comments. Like I said, I'll do my best to see if we can get it in there. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please do. I really appreciate it. And enjoy. Chapter 8. What does the message say? "This is so cool," shrieked Carol as she held the compass spotlight on the wall. Across the gray cracked stone, you could now see there were 3 lines of black symbols, one right above the other. "I think it's a coded message," Will said excitedly. "Holy cow, it's really real," Jake said, a bit dazed by the writing on the wall. A few quick seconds passed as they all 3 realized that this was real and that they might actually find a real treasure. They exchanged smiles and Will walked over to Jake and held up his hand for a high five. "Dude, this is awesome," Will said with his own fist pump into the air. "I know, right? I can't believe it," Jake replied. "Yeah, I can't believe it either, but my arm is getting tired. Jake, can you go ahead and use the cipher and tell us what it says?" Carol added somewhat impatiently from her statuesque stance. "Oh, yeah, sorry, Carol," Jake added. Okay, the first few symbols are a T, H, E. The! He exclaimed. I need something to write down on. I don't want to mess it up." "Hang on, y'all," Will said as he stepped back from the wall with his hand to his ear listening. "Yeah, I think I hear someone coming," he continued. They all 3 stood quietly. Now Jake and Carol could hear it as well. Someone was definitely driving down the same path they had used to get here. Carol quickly dropped her arm and placed the compass in her pocket. She and the boys remained quiet, listening to see if the vehicle had stopped. The roar of another mule came closer and closer and then abruptly stopped. "Okay, what do we do now? Who do you think it is?" Carol whispered to the boys. I don't know," Jake began. "There has to be something down there. You saw the photo. The crook Jesse is holding up Hayden's compass in front of it. It has to mean something." A shrill female voice cut through the air from the direction of the vehicles. "Hey, careful, there's another mule here, so that means there are probably people nearby," a male voice said in a more hushed tone. "Oh, calm down, Trent. But I guess you're right. Well, let's go look at this waterfall and see if we can find anything," the female voice said. Y'all, I think they know about the treasure," Jake whispered, saying what they were all thinking, but out loud. Carol and Will both nodded in agreement. "So, should we hide? I mean, Grandpa did say there were potentially others after it," he continued. The sound of gravel sliding and the 2 people getting out of the mule to begin their way down the slope to the base of the waterfall took all of their attention. "Yeah, agreed. Let's move though, quick," Carol whispered back. "But where?" Will added. They did a quick survey of the immediate surroundings, and just across from the waterfall was a giant piece of limestone that had cracked off and become its own rock. It was a perfect spot to hide and not be seen, but still be able to hear. "There," Jake said, "let's go." He made his way behind the boulder, and the other 2 followed quickly and quietly as they could. Just as they had made it, they could hear the footsteps of the 2 strangers beginning to make their way down the slope. "The things I go through for this treasure, it better be as amazing as Granddad said, or I swear," the female voice cut back in. Jake, Carol, and Will all looked at each other in shock and curiosity when she said the word Grandpa. "Oh, come on, Linda. You know it's going to be. Grandpa said that his father told him that it was more gold than he," Trent said in a reply. Yeah, more than he'd ever seen. "I know," Linda cut back in. "And," Trent said, "and that it was linked to all of Jesse James's treasures," Linda replied with annoyance in her voice. "That's right, so let's go figure this out," Trent replied. Thud! The sound of Trent's feet hitting the ground told them that the 2 strangers were now on the ground about 20 feet away from their rock shield in front of the waterfall. "But we don't even have the compass," Linda's voice continued to complain. "I know, but I don't know who got to the pine tree first, or how they even knew to. Whatever. Let's at least look around to see if we can figure anything out," Trent's voice replied. "Fine, whatever. I will look around," Linda said. From the noises that Jake could hear, the 2 strangers had begun to walk around. He slowly peeked out from behind the rock to see if he could get a good look at the two. As his eyes crested the edge, he could see two shapes, and their backs seemed to be to him. So he gained a little more courage and peeked slightly more. The two figures were now crystal clear. One was a tall lady, close to 6 foot in height from what Jake could tell. Her shiny black hair was corralled in a bun that sat atop her head. The light blue t-shirt she wore under the tan hiking vest was short-sleeved and allowed her small pale arms to move freely. Her ensemble was completed with some jean shorts and a brand new pair of hiking boots. The man to her right was much shorter, closer to Carol's height, around 5'6", and was Jake's best guess. He wore a large leather cowboy hat, like the crocodile hunter guy did that Jake's dad was always talking about. The hat held back what looked like long brown hair, and the tan hiking vest he wore just added to his overall crocodile hunter look. Under the vest was a plain white t-shirt that was drenched in sweat. He too had on some blue jean shorts and brand new hiking boots. Jake sat back down into his spot and leaned his head towards Linda and Trent to signal the others to take a peek. Carol and Will did their best to quietly and slowly peek over. As he turned, Will leaned on a rock that slipped out from under his hand. Crash! Smack! Oof! Will slipped and fell onto his face, making an awful sound as he did. He scrambled back out of sight and tried to pretend like it didn't happen. Hey, who's over there? Are you watching us or something? Linda's accusing voice came ringing towards them. The three sat as silent and still as they could. Hello? Is someone over there? Trent asked in a much nicer tone. It's okay, we aren't mean people. Yeah, right. Like that's true, Jake thought as he looked to the others to see what they should do. Carol looked back and shrugged her shoulders, stood up, and walked out from the rock and said, Oh, hello, sorry, no, we weren't watching you. We were looking for a geocache, she blurted out in a panic. Oh, Linda replied, still a bit suspicious. The two boys also stood up and sheepishly waved and walked out from behind the rock and joined Carol. Just me and my cousins, and the cache was listed down the creek a little, and we were just heading back up, Carol said quickly. We're going to head back up to the mules now and head on back to camp, she continued as she made her way towards the path for the mules. The two boys quietly and quickly followed behind their brave cousin as she bluffed her way to the exit. Well, y'all have a nice time, Carol said as she began the ascent up the side of the hill towards the mules. The boys also waved a small quick goodbye and followed her up. Linda and Trent turned back to each other and began whispering. The three made their way up to the mule and quickly got in. Let's get home. This is insane, Jake whispered to the other two. But we don't know what the message said, Will added in a whisper from the back seat. Shh, Carol reminded them. I think we should just get out of here for now. We can come back later and get it. Let's just get home so we can talk about all of this safely, she continued. Jake shook his head in agreement, started the mule, and took off towards the main lodge of the Mulberry River campground. Chapter 9. Time for lunch. Here you go, Dutch. Thank you, Jake said as he walked up to the old man standing out front of the main lodge and handed him back the keys to the mule. Well, hold on, Jake. Y'all only had it out maybe 2 hours. You still have 3 hours on it. Everything okay? Dutch replied. Yes, sir. All good. We just had to get back to the cabin, Jake said. Okay, well, y'all come back and use the 3 hours this trip. I don't want it to go to waste. Just let me know, okay? Dutch confirmed with a smile. Thank you, Dutch, Carol said from behind Jake. Yes, thank you so much, Dutch, Jake said as he shook the old man's hand. Will also gave a quick wave to Dutch as they began the 5-minute walk back down the path to the cabin. The moment they were out of Dutch's earshot, Will burst out, So who are those people? Yeah, how did they know about the compass? And who was there, Grandpa? Jake's thoughts erupted as well. I know, right? That was crazy. Also, what about the message? And what do you think it said? Carol was also unable to keep all the questions inside anymore. The three bombarded each other for a few seconds with no one really hearing or answering anything as they walked. There they are. Wow. Did y'all miss some fishing? Papa Mike's voice cut them all off. None of them realized that they had already made it back to the cabin and Jake's father was standing out on the back deck holding up a massive stringer filled with fish. He was smiling from ear to ear as he hollered. Good news is you made it just in time to help us clean them. Meet you out back? Jim's voice came bellowing from the other cabin's porch. Will's dad was also holding a stringer filled with fish and smiling the same goofy smile. Out back was a spot directly behind the cabin where Jake was staying. There was a small clearing that had a small wooden table they used for cleaning fish. There was also a stone ring fire pit where they had campfires in the evening. This was the area the family used for cornhole tournaments. This is the area the family used when cornhole tournaments took place. So there were always several lawn chairs strewn about. It was kind of the outdoor hangout area. "Looks like y'all did catch a few," Jake replied. "Yeah, holy cow," Will added. "Y'all want to do a fish fry?" Aunt Peggy's voice came from the porch of their cabin. "That sounds great," Angie said from the other side of Mike. "Well, that settles it. Kids, meet us out back," Mike added as he pointed the way. Jake stopped and said, "Hey, y'all, 1 second," to his cousins. They stopped and turned back to him. "We agree to meet up after the food and figure this out," he whispered, and they both nodded in agreement. "Cool," he confirmed back. They made their way out to the back side of the cabin where Mike and Jim were already laughing and cutting up fish. "Jake, Will, y'all get over here and do this so I can show Jim who's better at cornhole," Mike said. "On it, Dad," Jake replied, and he and Will walked over to take over filleting the fish. "Yeah, y'all enjoy that," Carol said with sarcasm and a little laughter. "I don't think you're getting out of the work, ma'am." Aunt Peggy's voice stung Carol's ears. "No, we need to get the potatoes washed and cut up," she said as she walked up to her daughter and handed her a bowl full of potatoes and a cutting board. "Go join your cousins," she added with a small laugh. "Fine, Mom," Carol replied as she made her way over to the wooden table with the boys. The three wanted to talk about everything that had just taken place, but with their parents being so close, they didn't want to chance it. This is torture," Carol let out after a few seconds of silent cutting and wanting to talk to her cousins. Both boys quickly looked at her with caution on their faces. "What's torture?" her Uncle Mike asked from the cornhole area. "Oh, nothing. I was exaggerating. Sorry," Carol replied quickly. "Okay, well, I'm about to beat your uncle, so he is the only tortured one I know," Jake's father retorted, trying to trash talk his brother-in-law. Carol looked back at her cousins and mouthed the word "sorry" to them. Carol looked back at her cousins and mouthed the word "sorry" to him. "I'm all good. Let's just get this meal over with so we can talk," she whispered to him. They both nodded in agreement and relaxed back into the fish prep. "Hello, Angie, is that you?" A shrill and eerily familiar voice came from the other side of the cabin. The three all turned in the same. Goodness, I'm going to get this. They all three turned at the same moment, hoping they were all mistaken. But standing there was Linda, the lady from the falls, and Trent was right beside her. "Linda? Linda Foster?" Jake heard his mother call out in her direction. "Is that you? I haven't seen you in forever. We just started up some fish. When we have plenty, y'all want to join us?"